Welcome to the First Things First podcast. And first things first, we need you to subscribe and leave comments letting us know what you think of the show. We're listening. I'm Nick Wright, joined by two of my favorite people, Jenna Wolfe, Cris Carter. Now, let's get the show started.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to First Things First.
What happened?
Help him.
Oh, my God.
What happened?
I'm Jenna Wolfe. That's the Hall of Famer, Cris Carter.
What up, CC?
This
How are
is
you?
Nick Wright.
What up, Jenna Wolfe? How are you?
That felt very aggressive, but like playfully aggressive.
Yeah, in a good way.
Yeah,
The reason why he did that, because he didn't want us ridiculing him or
What?
making fun of him.
What are you talking
He's like
about?
a kid over here. Oh, I think I burnt my mouth.
I did say
He goes in, here, let me just tell you, he goes in too strong and too fast with the first sip of scalding hot coffee. What else could go wrong?
I'm good, though. I feel good. Excited for today's show.
We got a lot of basketball to talk about today.
A lot of basketball.
Who knew this was such like a soap opera of a season? If I knew that, I would have started our show before September 1st.
The extended season, CC, it's thrown off everyone's wavelengths. They started the season a little bit earlier. Guys are getting angry. Guys are getting sick of each other. Everyone's thrown off a little bit, I feel like.
Yeah, very interesting.
Let's get everybody back on board. What in the what is going on with the Cleveland Cavaliers, she asked sarcastically and rhetorically. On a night when LeBron James became one of 7 players to score 30,000 points, you'd think it would be enough good juju to get the team going, but there isn't enough juju, apparently. The Cavs lost to an undermanned Spurs team, their 6th loss in 7 games, and now more reports of locker room strife. Trade rumors and potential lineup changes are swirling around Cleveland. Yes, we get that face, Ty Lue. He addressed the team's issues after the game.
I'm going to make a change.
What is it?
I'm not going to tell you. Have a good night, man.
Can you tell us why now?
I'll tell you later.
All right, so Ty Lue says he's going to make a change. Whether you think it's too late or it's just in time, Nick, what changes do you think the Cavs need to make here?
Well, I think I know what they're going to do, at least in the very short term.
Right. I think it's very important that people don't start overreacting just one game after a team meeting. They should have made changes. Like, they haven't played very good basketball, so I'm not surprised that a week ago that Ty Lue hadn't decided, you know something, I need to make some changes. Obviously, the team meetings don't take place when things are going well. All right? So I know this. I think team meetings are blown out of proportion as far as the overall value of what comes out of it, because typically when you're working with your colleagues and everyone, when they actually say how they're feeling, no one leaves there feeling warm and fuzzy. So when you start talking about you have a fiery team meeting and then you're going to face a team like San Antonio that is, they're strapped. Kawhi's not there. Ginobili's not there. They got so many players not there.
Pau Gasol didn't play. Rudy Gay didn't play.
Yes. But I wasn't expecting Cleveland to just come out of that meeting and it be transitioned into great team basketball. And so I thought they would lose to San Antonio, even though they were shorthanded, because they're just not playing good defense. And offensively, this is the least effective that they've been this season.
Well, and as far as the changes, like what I expect to find out today, or I guess they play Friday, so I don't know if it will be announced today or not. They have the day off today. They're going to practice tomorrow. Jay Crowder is going to be removed from the starting lineup. I would be shocked if that's not the move. I think they are going to go back to the more traditional lineup they were going to have at the beginning of the year, which is a point guard, Isaiah Thomas, J.R. Smith, hold on him for a moment, LeBron James, Kevin Love, and Tristan Thompson. So they will go with a bigger lineup, a lineup that will be more equipped to defend. The next move I believe they are making, and I believe they are making that move today, is trading for George Hill. If you saw, Adrian Wojnarowski reported they were very close for a Channing Frye, Iman Shumpert, George Hill trade. Something interesting happened in the game last night. Shump, who had been injured, came in the second quarter, played 5 minutes, showed everyone he was healthy, did not play again. That's typically what you do if a guy could be traded. If they do trade for George Hill, JR will then be removed from the starting lineup. They would start IT and JR Smith, let IT play point guard on defense, and let George Hill play point guard on offense, essentially, is how I think they will do it. So I think by Thursday, IT,
So
George
you don't
Hill.
think George Hill will be a starter?
I do think he'll be a starter. I think
Okay.
JR's coming out of the lineup.
Okay, yeah.
George Hill and IT will be the starting backcourt.
Yeah, I think you kind of misspoke. Yes.
If I said it wrong, I apologize.
Yes, okay.
No. They will take JR out of the lineup, have IT and George Hill as a dual point guard backcourt. One guy playing point on offense, the other guy playing point on defense. It was what I'm trying to say. Appreciate the clarification. So I think those two changes are coming before they play again.
I think it's important to see that they are at least acknowledging that they really need help on defense. I think George Hill will give them a little bit of help on defense. But it's not just defensively they're struggling. They're shooting less than 32% from three since Christmas. So they're not playing well offensively. They're not playing well defensively. Everyone seems to be fighting with each other. This is now their second or third team meeting. I mean, I think Ty Lue had no choice but to make some kind of changes, and I don't think a lineup change is going to be the only change they make.
No, absolutely. And if all these they got to make changes, but none of them will matter if LeBron doesn't change.
How?
All right? This is, besides when he took off his jersey, walking off the court, besides one or two games in the Dallas series, I've seen LeBron play maybe 90% of all the games he's played. I probably saw him play half the games that he played in high school. This is the least amount of fun that I've ever seen LeBron have on the court. My favorite LeBron was the kid who came out and they had all the dances and everything they were doing, taking the pictures, his first time in Cleveland. That was now he wasn't a champion then. He evolved into a dynamic leader and a dynamic all-around basketball player in Miami. But even in Miami, he didn't always have fun. I have never seen LeBron have less fun on the basketball court. And you always talk about through social media how he sends these messages. Yesterday, he sent the message to himself. Now, to me, when you are in the stratosphere as far as athletes, you don't need to send a message to yourself. Everyone knows how great. You're in rare air. But it spoke to me, who's someone who's been watching him before that picture. When I heard about him through Wim Wesley, Worldwide West, when he was 14 years old. He said, Chris, there's a kid from Ohio. It's probably going to be one of the greatest, if not the greatest basketball player ever. So I've been tuned into him. But I've always seen a kid who loved basketball and the joy of basketball, and regardless of what he had going on the basketball court, was his safe haven. I didn't see that. He wasn't even celebrating this phenomenal achievement. It was kind of like he was relieved. I think he was glad that he had one of his brothers in Dwayne Wade there. So for me, that's got to change. I don't care about George Hill as much if LeBron is not all in sync. If he's not, like you saying, playing to an uber level, they can't beat Golden State. So now I don't even think they can get out of the East until LeBron, he's got to get out of this funk that he's in.
Well, I want to show a clip. These are consecutive plays last night, early in the second quarter. This was still a game. In fact, I mean, you'll see the score in the bottom right-hand corner. I guess the score's covered up, but it's a close game, I promise you. Watch. So if you guys see, and we'll show it again, the Cavs don't even cross the three-point line. And then on the next time down, Kevin Love goes down. And who's helping him? Just get away from me. Nobody's helping him. Watch here.
Away from him.
Isaiah Thomas, watch him. He's already playing defense. He's starting a 5-on-4 right there. That's not a fun team to play with right now. And then on the other end of the court, Isaiah doesn't get into the play. Kevin Love goes down, and Jay Crowder steps around him. Part of the report is that there is a disconnect between the guys who have been on the Cavs and the 8 new Cavs, well, 7 of the new Cavs except for Dwayne Wade, essentially. That was on full display last night. I don't know how you fix it other than trading away some of the new guys, other than moving on potentially from Jay Crowder, at least moving him out of the starting lineup. The IT part, Jenna, I feel like he is in his own head. He is thinking about, am I playing myself out of, forget a max contract, a giant contract?
Yeah, he's under a great deal of pressure. Anyone who plays with LeBron's under pressure, he would have been under pressure even if he had not suffered the injury in the playoffs. Like, he would have been under pressure under any circumstances in Cleveland. And now going through that, and he's not healthy. He's not explosive.
Not healthy.
He doesn't have legs. I mean, he was falling all over the court last night like he was playing on ice, like hockey, and the rest of them playing on the hardwood on a basketball court.
For someone who's played and someone that basically studies basketball, here's my question to you. Is there a pathway for this team to be successful if they don't all get along? They don't like each other right now. Anyone can see that. But is it possible to be successful having that team strife, or will they need to fix that before anything else?
It's hard in team sports not to like the people you're with. It's hard in any business when it relies on teamwork that you can't depend on people. And every day, instead of doing what's best for the organization, for the team, for the show, you do what's best for yourself. And it trickled over into sports. And that's what we're seeing with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Right now, man, IT needs a contract. He needs to be healthy. Yeah. So right now, his overall sacrifice, like, is he going to sacrifice his body and throw himself into a charge situation, you know, to be able to let his teammates know when they help? There's such a disconnect from the communications. Oh, I thought you had this guy. In last night's game, they threw the ball to the corner. Dwayne Wade and someone else ran to the corner to leave another guy wide open. So you can see that overall chemistry, it's trickled from off the court because they don't spend that much time on the court, Jenna. Right. So how you feel about the person, it will trickle over onto the court.
Did the losing beget the bad relationships, or did the bad relationships beget the losing? Because there's the same collection of people. I know IT wasn't playing, but he was there on the bench that won 18 out of 19 games. That looked like when IT came back, they could have one of the best records in the NBA from that moment moving forward. What I think the Cavs need is to get to February 8th. That is the trade deadline. That is when the team will be locked in stone. And they will have to, for good or for bad, figure out how to get back to the team that played Houston, in Houston, neck and neck, played Golden State on Christmas Day, neck and neck. That team still exists. They haven't suffered any major injury. They haven't lost any significant player. That team still exists. They have to find a way to get back to it. And Chris's point that LeBron's got to be the Pied Piper of joy, for lack of a better term, is an important one. I don't think that will happen until the team is set post-trade deadline.
Nick, you taught me this, and Charlie, and we made some adjustments with the show. Cris, you can't be, because there's some days I can be a mean dude.
No. This is the first time
Check the tape about the last hour and a half yesterday.
But Nick has a few private conversations with me and lets me know, under no circumstances are we going to be at our best if you're not at your best. So it is important, and LeBron James, it's always been that way. And they won't get it right in Cleveland until he gets back and begins to have fun and be able to play and enjoy his teammates.
All right, let's move on to the Cavs.
Kyle Lowry.
You guys remember that super effective team meeting they had yesterday, the airing of the grievances, the one where teammates accused Kevin Love of faking his illness?
Yep.
Well, this is rich. Reportedly, the accusation was led by newcomer Isaiah Thomas. And oh, by the way, the Cavs lost again last night, their 6th loss in their last 7 games. Nick, I'll start with you. Can Isaiah Thomas and Kevin Love coexist? Because on paper, on the court, and seemingly in team meetings, it doesn't appear to be the case.
Can they? Theoretically, yes. Do they need to? Absolutely, unless the Cavs make a major trade. And by the way, if they do, I think it'd be Isaiah Thomas getting traded, not Kevin Love. The Cavs have talked about what's our plan post-LeBron. Well, part of that plan would be you have Kevin Love locked up. You don't have Isaiah Thomas locked up. You don't know what his health is. But if you flip Isaiah Thomas for, like, Kemba Walker, then all of a sudden you went from Kyrie to a poor man's Kyrie Isaiah Thomas to a poor man's Isaiah Thomas Kemba Walker. Like, that's 2 steps down. So they need to be able to coexist. The best version of this Cavs team has LeBron leading the show with 2 Robins, Kevin Love and Isaiah Thomas. Right now, though, it's the worst version of this Cavs team because Kevin Love's lost his confidence. Isaiah Thomas isn't healthy yet, so they're not good offensively, and they've never been good defensively. So can they coexist? Yes, but they're not showing it right now.
Yeah, and are they being fair with Kevin Love? I mean, I believe if a player is sick, especially a star player, the way Kevin Love has been, he's always been the excuse for criticism in Cleveland. Ever since he's got there, he's always one of, like, the problems. Well, Kevin Love should be doing this. I know Kevin Love is probably sick of this. And now you got new teammates, guys who haven't won no championships. IT ain't won no championships with LeBron. They don't have the history of sacrificing their game the way Kevin Love does. So, for me, Kevin Love gets blamed for too many things in Cleveland. IT. Let's talk about Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose, how long did he take off, Nick?
A couple months.
They gave him 2 months to take off. He's new. He's got no equity in Cleveland. He's got no equity with LeBron. He took 2 months to clear his head to decide if he wants to play basketball, which really, Jenna, comes down to if I walk away from this, I'm walking away from all this money with Adidas.
$70 million.
So he's there. He's being forced to be there because it's about money. But Kevin Love, he actually gets sick in a game that they get drilled at, and people that haven't been in Cleveland are questioning his sports integrity or is he being authentic about being sick?
And it wasn't just people in Cleveland. What I found most alarming was the fact that it was Isaiah Thomas who reportedly was the one that brought this up and that accused Kevin Love of faking the illness, which to me was a little rich, given that Isaiah Thomas is the one that when he got inserted back into the lineup or went into the lineup for the first time, it was Kevin Love's, performance and numbers and whatnot that ended up deteriorating. I just think that a team that's already seemingly broken, to have the new guy who the team is trying to cater to and coddle a little bit to get him back up and going so he could have good performance and good numbers and good productivity, Kevin Love is the one once again becomes the scapegoat.
Well, I'm not surprised by that, but there's a lot of pressure on IT. Because if he does not play to the level that he played at in Boston, then this trade is a failure. Like they went out and traded for. Now he's mad at Boston because they gave up on him. Well, Cleveland's the one who thought that you could recover from this. Everyone talked about the injury could be worse than anticipated. We haven't seen him back to full speed. It's going to be interesting how he looks in 2 or 3 weeks, because if he's not healthy, this Cleveland team, it will continue to get worse. If they're not playing good basketball, then you can't cover up for whatever the family woes are.
Here's what's frustrating for the Cavs. They were fine before IT came back. Before IT came back, they played Houston to damn near a draw in Houston. Houston ended up winning that game, but if you remember, that was, I think it was 118, 114. They played Golden State. It's tied going into the final 2 minutes on Christmas Day. And then the refs decided, by the way, who are out to get Kevin Durant so much, they let him foul LeBron James twice on final possessions. That's neither here nor there. But, I mean, the Cavs were in good shape. And IT coming back is what's thrown the whole thing askew, which I understand why for you it's like IT's been the added factor and now everything seems off, but they can't trade Kyrie for nothing and be better than they were last year. And when Jay Crowder's playing like he is, the only thing they're getting from it is Isaiah Thomas. The frustrating factor, the concerning factor for me is we have to look at Isaiah Thomas's career and ask, what's the outlier now? Sacramento gave up on him. Phoenix got him and immediately said, we don't want him anymore. Boogie didn't like playing with him. In Boston, he had this one amazing season, but there was the knock on Isaiah Thomas was kind of tough guy to play with, needs to dominate the ball. I had seen everyone that had ever played with LeBron adjust their game accordingly. The question is, when he's healthy, will he be able to? Will his personality allow it? Like, those are real concerns for this team.
Well, it doesn't seem to be an option that Kevin Love is going to be inserted over Isaiah Thomas, even though the team, as you just said, played great before Isaiah Thomas got back in.
What do you mean inserted over?
That means he's going to be the second option. Like right now, it seems to be that you're going to take your superstars, I'm learning from you, and he is going to be the one that plays. And he is the superstar in this team as well as LeBron. And so the only way they're going to get to the finals, or the only way they're going to win, is with a guy like Isaiah Thomas there, and not Kevin Love necessarily as your second option.
I think that you don't have to separate them all. If you're trying to look at NBA basketball, you have to realize Golden State has 4 stars. Okay? So we can't think that you can't be real good unless you have 3 star players. Kevin Love is an all-star. All right? He's been an all-star more than IT. So we're not trying to separate. We're not trying to say 1, 2, 3.
Could they win the way they were playing without Isaiah Thomas in that lineup?
No, I don't think so.
Not at the highest level.
Okay, so that's
not
my
7
point.
games.
That's my point. For some reason, they can't figure out how to play with the 3 of them in there. But with 2 of them in there, they played pretty well.
They played well enough to not be a disaster, but not well enough to win a championship. Like they need, Chris's point is, they need all 3 of these guys operating at peak capacity, along with LeBron playing at a higher level than he's playing right now, and some good luck.
So all of that has to happen. That's a lot.
But the reason that right now.
The reason why it's got to happen is because this is one of the greatest teams we've ever seen in Golden State.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can't be absent of who Golden State is when you're talking about a team trying to compete for a championship. So you can't split hairs with IT. Well, who's the 2 or 3? If they're both not real good, they got no chance.
And the reason that what's really thrown off the chemistry, if you will, or the solution is in order to try to get IT back to all-star level, they are catering the offense more to him than they will once he is at an all-star level. And Kevin Love has not responded well to that. Now, you can say Kevin Love's been the scapegoat, and he has been a lot of times. Some of this is Kevin Love doing it to himself. And so there is a reason, fair or otherwise, people would accuse Kevin Love of faking an illness. I don't know if he did or he didn't. He's adamant he didn't. There are players other than Isaiah Thomas who think he did. It's a hell of a charge to levy against any professional athlete.
And especially with someone who just joined the team.
That's what I said.
I mean, they don't have no history together. So
Right.
how can they break up what LeBron, Shumpert, JR, Shannon Fry, that's the group. So when you knew that there was rumors, you knew it was coming out of the new guys. Like, so you knew it was coming from either Crowder, IT. Like, I didn't think it was going to be Jeff Green, and I knew it was not Dwayne Wade.
So why? What would be the reason for IT to do this when the team's already having issues? Why would you be the new guy, the bunch to bring up, and maybe he's faking an illness?
Jenna, it's sports. Like, these things happen in a locker room. Like, these things aren't foreign. Guys have dislikes for each other. People are selfish. IT, this is the biggest year of his sports career. All right? Boston gave up on him. They traded him with the greatest player in the NBA, where all the eyeballs are on him, and he's not healthy. It's hard for IT to be in the NBA, let alone be a superstar, when he does not have his legs. So we are not being fair to IT until he gets back to being healthy. What kind of person and everything he is, that is a different conversation. But he is not the basketball player. And that right there, if he is the basketball player that he was in Boston or close, all these other things will go away.
They fix themselves.
I mean, I don't care if he is not a great defender if he's giving me 25 a night.
For the audience, the next time the Cavs play is Friday. They'll be playing the Pacers, who have beat them 3 consecutive times this season. By Friday, I believe Jay Crowder will be out of the starting lineup and Tristan Thompson will be in the starting lineup, so they'll be playing a bigger lineup. And I think by Friday they will have traded for George Hill. That won't fix everything, but that could stop the bleeding a bit before a more significant move before the trade deadline. So keep an eye out on that.
All right, finally, LeBron James became one of 7 players in NBA history to score 30,000 points and the youngest player to join the exclusive club. However, Cavs lost to an undermanned Spurs team. LeBron spoke about the accomplishment after the game.
This is a special moment. It's something I never set out to do. You know, I'm not even like a score-first guy when it comes to playing basketball. I love getting my teammates involved and seeing my teammates be excited about scoring and me getting assists and things of that nature. But for me to sit here and be the youngest player to ever reach 30,000, it's just, I put a lot of work into my game, and it's just I've been a byproduct of that.
CeCe, how impressive is 30,000 points?
Oh, it's very impressive. And LeBron, he might not have set out his goal as for 30,000 points, but his goal was to be the best basketball player ever. And there's no way he'd ever be in the breath of the top 5 basketball players ever unless he gets to 30,000 points. So that was going to be along the journey. The thing that's most impressive of all the 7 guys on the list, LeBron is the only natural. My first instinct is to pass the basketball. These other guys, man, they were born to score the basketball. I mean, let's go down the list, Nick. Who's number 1?
Kareem.
The most unstoppable offensive player. Number 2, who?
Karl Malone.
Karl Malone.
Just 25 points every night for 15 years.
Number 3.
Kobe.
Kobe, stop it. Kobe was in the womb getting buckets, turnarounds, everything. Next,
Michael Jordan.
Michael Jeffrey Jordan. That speaks for itself. And we could go on and on.
Well, the next 2, Wilt, who had a 100-point game and averaged 50, and then Dirk, the greatest shooting big man ever.
Yes, so LeBron and his overall unselfishness to be on this list, it's not about longevity. It's truly amazing. And if you compile the assist of the other 6, You would be astonished at just how good LeBron has been and unselfish to be on this. These are not things that go together, being unselfish and being one of the top 7 scorers that's ever played in the NBA.
And listen, he'll pass Dirk later this year. He'll pass Wilt and Michael Jordan next year. And so, I mean, he might not get to Kareem. I think he will get to Kareem, but the worst he finishes is top 3 scorers all time. He's, as Cece mentioned, the unselfishness. He's the youngest to get to 30,000. He's the only player ever to get to 30,000 points, 7,000 rebounds, 7,000 assists. And I'm confident that's something no one else will ever do. Like
yes.
that volume of scoring combined with that volume of rebounding and assists, it's remarkable. But the most, and I know the Cavs are in a bad way right now. They're going to have to make changes. LeBron's been part of that. But if we're just going to go from 30,000 feet, if I may, and look at his career, the most impressive thing to me about LeBron James is he was the most hyped high school athlete I've ever seen. And certainly of this era, of an era of 24/7 sports radio, television networks, social media, all of that. And not only did the hype not crush him, not only did he not fail to meet the hype, he somehow exceeded the hype. The most hyped prep athlete ever exceeded all of the hype. And a guy who grew up in a tough situation, moving around, was a single mother who had her own issues, to never have a scandal, to never have man, I would say there's maybe only one person on this desk that can say they've never had a run-in with the police. It's hard to go. I mean, I don't know. Maybe. Oh, I didn't know, Jenna. Do you know how hard it is to be in the public eye for 35 years, 33 years,
yeah,
or I guess 23 years for him, and never have run in with the police, never have some awful tabloid incident. His biggest scandal was a premature pep rally and a press conference that people didn't like.
That he gave the money away to charity.
Right. The biggest black mark on his career ended with $4 million for the Boys and Girls Club. It's remarkable. It has been one of the most remarkable child celebrity stories outside of sports that we've ever seen. And when you have these moments to look at it and see what he's accomplished,
it's nice. I didn't think about it.
It's really unreal.
It's great, Nick. All right, at some point in the not-too-distant future, speaking of superstar athletes, the name Tom Brady will be used as an adjective describing excellence at any level, at any age. Here, I'll use it in a sentence. Hey, Deanna, you were so Tom Brady in your music class today. The Patriots quarterback is heading to a record 8th Super Bowl, his 3rd in 4 years. He's on pace, if he hasn't already, to secure himself as the greatest quarterback of all time. CC, I'll start with you. Is Tom Brady the greatest athlete of all time?
Wow, this is very, very difficult because we've given him the title of the greatest quarterback. Now, the problem with athlete, you start getting into, well, who's more athletic?
Or skill sets, yeah.
And it's really, really hard. It's hard to compare the greatest basketball player, me ever, Michael Jordan, with Tom Brady being the greatest quarterback. Because I could go to Jim Brown. Jim Brown, we as Hall of Famers consider him to be the greatest of the Hall of Famers for what he accomplished. Now, Tom Brady, he has taken his game and as a Hall of Famer to new standards because of longevity. So you're going to have to be able to consider that. Basketball players, though, they play offense and they play defense. I mean, the Patriots have won a few championships by a guy kicking the ball and by guys intercepting the ball. Like Tom Brady was actually sitting on the sideline and got championships. So to me, it's hard to compare him to people like Jordan, to people like Muhammad Ali as boxers, because you got to be offensive and defensive. So he's there. I don't like to separate him. I would not like to say he's the greatest athlete ever. I think that he is in the breadth of the 5 greatest athletes that I've been able to see in my lifetime. But when you talk about all-round athletes, because I asked Jim Brown this question. Jim Brown, who's the greatest football player? He shocked me, knocked me off my feet. He told me.
Amendola.
Yes, Jim Thorpe. I was like, oh, my goodness. Hadn't even thought about him. I mean, these guys played both ways. He was an unbelievable athlete who happened to play football. So Tom Brady is in that breath. What we're seeing from the time he's turned 30 to whenever he quits, I believe will make him very, very special. And yes, he will always be in the conversation of the greatest of the greats.
What is, to stay on Brady for a second here, what's so amazing about Brady being in this discussion, he's the only person in the who is the greatest athlete of all time discussion who's not a great athlete. Like, who's not, by that I mean, he doesn't have amazing, natural, some people would call them God-given physical traits. Like, he is not incredibly fast. He is not, he doesn't, Mark Schlereth yesterday said he knows he won the genetic lottery. He's touched by the hand of God to get some certain things. We look at certain guys. Jim Brown, for example. People don't know this. He's the greatest lacrosse player ever. Yes. They had to change the rules.
Yes.
Like when he retired from 2 sports, is the best ever in those sports. You look at a guy like LeBron, LeBron could have been amazing at a bunch of sports. Like maybe not the best in the world at them. So Brady doesn't have those physical gifts.
No.
And he's got more physical gifts than I do. But compared to the guys that is in the discussion, look at how he ran at the combine. Look at what he was in college.
Right. I would say that how he throws the football and his ability to be accurate is a gift.
Sure. Agreed. But do you understand what I'm saying? Like the athleticism.
He can throw the football and as accurate as Steph can shoot the ball.
Sure, and Steph's another guy that I would say is not an amazing natural athlete, like compared to these other people. So he's in the club, like along with Wayne Gretzky. With that's a guy you got to consider. I would say people get mad like Barry Bonds when we're talking about like teams, guys that could do all things. Go ahead.
You're the kind of guy that doesn't like to compare apples to oranges ever, and this is one of the perfect examples where you got to keep these guys in their own lane. Wayne Gretzky is the greatest hockey player I ever saw play, far and away. But you put him on a basketball court, you put him on a football field.
And
we have to.
Yeah, and where Gretzky was compared to the second greatest player.
Of course.
You have to mention that. I mean, man, he was amazing.
Of course. And the talent level at this point where athletes are getting bigger and stronger and smarter and faster, to even be considered one of the greatest athletes at your position or within your sport is unbelievable enough. I think it's very hard to compare and cross over and say, well, who's the best athlete? LeBron has unbelievable gifts, the likes of which, the strength, the mobility, the flexibility I've never seen. But who knows if he could do the same thing with his accuracy that Tom Brady could, or get a puck in a little area at the time. So I think these guys are definitely at the top of the game. I think it's very hard to say he's the greatest athlete.
Yeah, Tom's ability to perform at an advanced age will always have him in a very, very special class. His ability to be able to get his team in championship position will always have him in a very, very special class. I believe I said yesterday or 2 days ago, Tom's going to win 7 Super Bowls. So when he's done, you're going to have to talk about him. Athletic, non-athletic, he will be part of all conversations when you talk about the greatest who have done it in all sports.
And the ability to stay healthy. Like, that's a huge, I give guys credit for that. The longevity is an enormous part of this. I know there's almost nothing more cliche in sports talk than Mount Rushmores, so allow me to do one quickly if I could. I try to think about this when we talk about the greatest athletes of all time. Like, what are some sports that have been going on forever?
Golf.
Since the beginning of time, since the beginning of time, people want to know who can win in a fight. So the greatest fighter of all time has to be on there. That's Muhammad Ali. Since the beginning of time, people have wondered, who's the fastest guy out here? Who can run, whether it's from lions or saber-toothed tigers or whatever? Usain Bolt. So he's got to be on there. I also want to be fair to all people. Who's the greatest female athlete of all time? Serena Williams. She's got to be on there. That leaves one spot for the greatest team athlete ever. Some people would have Michael Jordan. Some people would have Tom Brady. I have LeBron James. But Brady is in that discussion of all sports history. Is his face on the mountain? It damn well might be. And he's not done playing. It's remarkable.
All right. And finally, the NBA All-Star reserves were announced yesterday. Ton of notable names on the list. 2 Washington Wizards, 4 Golden State Warriors, a lion, a tiger, and a bear. Oh, my. Most notably not on the list, Andre Drummond, Lou Williams, and Paul George. Russell Westbrook was particularly fired up. Take a listen.
Unbelievable. I think it's just outrageous in my opinion. I think, I don't know who else made the team, but I know got guys, 4 people from one team, You got guys, complaining about getting snubbed until they get in. You got guys that, just talking about it all the time, but the guys that deserve it should be in. It's not, I just don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. Guy to lead the league in steals, compete every night. Top 2 at his position. You know what I mean? It don't make any sense.
I love
All right, you could
so
read
much.
between the lines and probably figure it out every single player
We
and
know
every
who he's
single
mad
team
about.
who he's talking
Listen,
about.
we know he says 4 guys from one team. That's the Warriors. So that's a shot at Draymond and Clay. He says a guy complains about it, so he gets on. Dame, get the hell out of here, he's saying. And then the best one, top 2 at his position. Well, he plays small forward. LeBron plays small forward. Kevin Durant plays small forward. So he's either taking a shot at LeBron or Kevin Durant. I'm going to guess it's Kevin Durant he's taking a shot at there.
Him and LeBron are pretty cool.
Exactly.
Yeah, they got much respect.
Exactly right. So
was Paul George the biggest snub, though?
I think Paul George was snubbed. I think Paul George should have replaced one of those 4 Warriors, most notably Draymond Green. But I think the biggest snub was Lou Williams. Lou Williams is averaging 23 points a game, carrying the Los Angeles Clippers in a year where they are a half game out of the playoffs. He's been the NBA's leading scorer over the last month. He has 14 30-point games. And this
14
30-point games. 3 40-point games and a 50-point game. And, CeCe, this is where I'm going to be a little sentimental. For Lou Williams, it's cool. This is his one chance to make an All-Star game. If you make it, he gets introduced forever. Former NBA All-Star Lou Williams. Like, that's a chance for him. That's a cool thing for a guy that's not going to be a Hall of Famer, not a perennial All-Star. So I think Lou Williams and Paul George were the snubs.
Right. Draymond's the one that you bring into question in the West as far as the Warriors, because look at Klay's number. Klay has been amazing. Not only his points per game, his shooting average, shooting percentage from the field, from the free throw line, and from three-point range has been amazing. So Draymond would be the one. But also you have to look, Andre Drummond. He's getting 15 rebounds a game. You're talking about he's one of the most improved players in the NBA. He got snubbed also. When you have an all-star team, you're always going to have some people who get snubbed or some people who get grandfathered in. But typically, people like Lou Williams, they typically get the short end.
Is part of this, though, quickly about more maybe a popularity contest, and Lou Williams doesn't have the same cachet that, say, like a Draymond Green has?
Well,
when it comes to fans
they're trying to reward winning.
The champions.
Go ahead.
The championships But Draymond hasn't had that type of all-star season, for the first half of the season. Lou Williams has been an all-star. He has earned it. And like Nick said, sometimes you have that great season and they let you in. Next year, with Lou Williams, we don't know.
Right.
Like next year, he might be a sixth man. He'll be up for Sixth Man of the Year award.
Absolutely.
All right, this just in. Kevin Durant is having a drama-filled season. Oh, wait, hold on. That's been in for a while now. Another day, another gripe, apparently. If he's not mad at another player, he's mad at Twitter or teammates or the haters, or most recently, the refs. Last night, Durant was tossed from the game for arguing with the ref. His 4th ejection of the season. He's on pace for like 127 ejections this season. 8 is also a number I like to use. We spoke about it after the game.
He went to halftime probably with an attitude, so second half, his whole thing was like he's trying to get me. So look at my first tech. I got the rebound and I dribbled the ball hard and he teched me up. He was searching for me. He looking to try to take me up to get me back because he's still in his feelings from the first half. That's what's been going on around the league the whole year. It's a bunch of that, you know what I'm saying? So I got to keep my head a little bit, but I was upset. I'm a human being too. I get upset.
That's your man's.
Legit gripe, guys?
That's your man's. No, it's not legit gripe. This is okay. First of all, he's like, I dribbled the ball hard. He got upset because on the first tech because he didn't think he committed a foul, which he was right. The foul wasn't called on him. It was called on Kevin Looney, and he slammed the ball right in front of the ref. You're not always called for a tech on that, but you do get called for techs on that sometimes.
Yes.
That's how he got his first one. His second one, he went on and on for 25 seconds.
Yeah, he was eyeballing the ref, even on defense.
Circled the court.
Yes.
Draymond tried to pull him away. This is the end of a 20-second performance by Kevin Durant that started in the front court or on the other end of the basketball court. And for Kevin Durant to say, he's out to get me. Well, I mean, KD, has he reffed all your games this year? I just want to show America Kevin Durant's ejections this year and where they rank in the NBA, because this is an embarrassment for the second best player in the world. Kevin Durant is in first place with 4 ejections. This is amongst teams, by the way. The rest of the Warriors are tied with him with 4. And then the next most team is the Rockets. Durant has more ejections than any other team in the league. Everyone's out to get me. It's not a conspiracy if they're really hunting for you. Give me, CC, that's your man's. Every day, this is your guy.
I mean, for one, he's not my guy.
Okay.
He's like you said, he's the second greatest basketball player. I'm a fan of basketball. I'm a fan of the way Golden State's played basketball, the style for which people said, no, you can't win in the NBA in doing that. But be who you are. Like, be authentic. What's Kevin Durant mad at the world about?
Why is he so mad?
I thought that when I made the shot in game number 3, I felt as if there was an exchange. Oh, from LeBron to me. Well, if you're the face of basketball around the world, Kevin, you're getting thrown out with less than a minute to go in a home game? Like, this is what the face of the basketball in the world, this is the responsibility now that you have since you have the torch? Like, okay, be responsible then. You're playing on Golden State. You're a world champion. You're MVP of the finals. Let's start acting like a KD. I need you to start acting like the real MVP, the one that your mom was proud about.
He plays every day like he's got a chip on his shoulder, but no one can figure out what the chip
There's
is.
nothing likable right now about Durant other than the way he plays basketball.
New topic. Patriots are getting ready for the Super Bowl, a sentence we basically say every year at this time. The team could really use their all-pro tight end Rob Gronkowski in the lineup. Another sentence we say every year. Gronk left the AFC Championship game just before halftime against the Jags with a concussion and did not return. Reports are New England is optimistic that he will be medically cleared for the Super Bowl. So, CeCe, how vital is Gronk to the Patriots offense?
Well, first things first, I think that the number one thing people think about with Gronk is him as a dominant wide receiver. And that is true. He's one of the best that's ever played pro football, especially in the time that he's played. Catches, yards after contact, contested catches, red zone touchdowns. Gronk is a bad dude. But the thing that he does better than anyone else, like in New England, and will be missed the most, is the end of the line blocking. Gronk is a mean blocker. I mean, he has a mismatch typically. He can block a defensive end, which most tight ends can't do. He can block an outside linebacker, which he has a physical mismatch over. Or if they try to bring a safety down and indicate that they're in man-to-man coverage, oh, he's going to knock you out the club, like he did a couple times, right. And he said in his interview. So that's the thing that I think is significant. Watch when Gronk is not in the game. New England struggles more running the football when he's not there. Right. Look at the Jacksonville game. I mean, they had a lot of rushing attempts, not a lot of rushing yards. And Gronk, if you had asked their offensive line coaches, who's your best offensive lineman, and you included Gronk, Gronk would be right there, either there or their center, as the best 2 offensive linemen that they have. So you can't just say, man, we're going to miss him down the field as that huge threat that they like in the pump seams. Also, you're going to miss him as far as drawing coverage off of the other wide receivers where they get single, and Tom knows if the safety's in the middle of the field and Gronk is the tight end, the safety might say he's in the middle, but he's going to cheat to Gronk's side, which opens it up on the outside for people like Brandon Cook to be able to get down the field and make big plays. So his absence is significant, but none more than in the running game, because he is a dominant run blocker in the running game.
We should mention he hasn't been ruled out for Sunday.
No, but they don't know.
They don't know. They are optimistic, but they do not know.
Do you think he'll play? Too early to say before I go on?
I think that he'll play, but I mean, he's got a big head. He's like Brumley, you know.
Poor Brumley. Brumley's our producer.
Brumley's the guy that works with us. All right.
No, I think it's too early for that. And let's start to see, when does he start to function? Right. When they have their first injury report. Now, Gronk, in doing the research on it, without Dusty, Gronk's never been listed on the injury report with a concussion. Now, he got hurt earlier one time where he was knocked out for the season, and he might have had a concussion in that injury, but he's never been on the official injury report with a concussion. So how he responds to his first concussion is going to be interesting.
Okay, so a number of things that you mentioned that I want to expand upon. One is what he allows for the other receivers. When he's on the field and it's a throwing situation, the fact that your tight end is the player the defense has to be most concerned with allows less physically gifted players more favorable matchups,
yes,
more favorable coverages, and it allows them more success. And if you remember, the big plays in this AFC Championship game after Gronk went out, it was pass interference on Jalen Ramsey. It was trick plays. There were only two in particular where it was simply huge plays straight up. A Patriot beat a Jag. One was the 3rd and 18 to Danny Amendola, where Brady did a great job looking off Miles Jack. And the other one was a brilliant catch and throw in the back of the end zone, again to Danny Amendola.
Yes.
But when Gronk is out and your most reliable option becomes Danny Amendola, it speaks to how important he is. And you mentioned the red zone. Man, the Pats have played 32 games without Gronk. That's 2 full seasons since he came into the league. Their red zone percentage drops from touchdowns on 65% of their plays, which is elite, not plays, but their drives, elite, to touchdowns on 58%, which is good, but like that 6% margin is a big deal. Additionally, you see the passer rating drops from 103 to 89 with and without Gronk. Now, they win the same amount of their games, basically, because they're the Patriots and they will find a way. But he's the most talented guy they have, and I just think back to moments. I take pictures of moments. The last AFC Championship game they lost against the Broncos, 4th and 10, near midfield, down 8. What do? They trust Gronk. This year against the Steelers, most critical drive of the season, what do? Gronk, Gronk, Gronk. He is a walking mismatch in the passing game.
Quick question. Is there a better team with a better coach that exemplifies next man up better than the Patriots do?
Well, no, because they train, Jenna. They train all the players. Like, who has a wide receiver that's their 4th best wide receiver that's prepared to be the star of the game the way Danny Amendola did? Danny Amendola is the 4th best wide receiver at best. I mean, you have to forget, Malcolm Jenkins is out.
Michael Mitchell
is out for New England. Hadn't played all year. He's better. Edelman's out. They traded, for Cooks. Like, this guy comes in, only in New England this happens. And if I had one pass to throw, and it was in the red zone, in the National Football League, there would be no other receiver I would have out there than Gronkowski. And I don't care if you put a linebacker. I don't care if you put Jalen Ramsey. If I got one ball to throw in the red zone. So that's how significant Gronk's presence is. And this is a game where the wide receivers, this is no Hall of Fame special. Right. I mean, these wide receivers, they are not. They are not the best group that's ever touched the field on the Super Bowl.
Welcome back to First Things First. Joining us now is Cris Canty.
What up, brother? Good to see you, man.
What's up?
Nothing much. You keeping these 2 guys in line?
I try. It takes a little bit of muscle and a little bit of moxie. I'm working on the moxie part.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
wow.
Get there with everything. We'll button it up by the end of the show today. Let's talk some Super Bowl now, if you will. If you're an Eagles fan, you've undoubtedly gotten some advice to stay positive about this matchup with the Patriots. And technically, the proverbial glass is always half full. Doug Peterson has taken the team to the Super Bowl in just his 2nd season as Eagles head coach, the same season he lost his starting quarterback, left tackle, and middle linebacker. But just that. Here he is on connecting with his players.
I think that having the connection, having been in the locker room, having understanding the dynamic of what a team needs, what a team should feel, how we should practice, how we should play, when to take the pads off, when to put the pads back on. I think all of that is part of, that emotional intelligence that we all and I try to strive for and to have with the guys. And I think that relationship has gone a long way this season.
Chris Canny, I think it's fair to say that if you lined up every head coach at the beginning of the season, there aren't many people who would have said, now, Doug Peterson, that guy is taking his team to the Super Bowl. I think this sort of came out of nowhere a little bit for Doug Peterson. What do you think the key has been to his success?
Well, you know what? You make an interesting point, Jenna. 2 years ago, when the Eagles made that hire, everybody was criticizing the Eagles organization because they were saying that was probably the worst head coach hiring during that hiring cycle. But you look at what Doug Peterson has done with this team in the last 2 years, being able to retool the roster and deal with kind of the Chip Kelly philosophy of things and being able to adjust his scheme to take advantage of what was already in place while having a clear direction in terms of where you want to move this team to from an identity standpoint. But also what he's been able to do in terms of being able to overcome the losses of key
injuries,
veteran players like Darren Sproles and Jason Peters, not only what they mean on the field in terms of production, but what they mean to that locker room in leadership. And that's why I think that's one of the most, I guess, undersold parts of head coaching in the National Football League is having a pulse of your locker room and understanding the different dynamics of your team. And so to be able to understand where your team is at and being able to continue to motivate those guys, not allowing them to use injuries as an excuse, the fact that you lost Carson Wentz, who was playing at an MVP-type level, and you're able to put in your backup quarterback in Nick Foles. Granted, he does have experience in this league as a starter, but being able to put him in, knowing that he's a different quarterback with a different skill set and still find a way to be able to win and still find a way to be able to motivate your team. I mean, you look at the only loss that they have in Nick Foles' 5 starts, and it was a meaningless game in Week 17 against the Dallas Cowboys. So I'm impressed by what Doug Peterson has done with this team.
You just don't have to look any further than the division. The Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys lost their left tackle for a couple games. Oh, what are we going to do? Like, you can't win without him. Dallas Cowboys the Eagles lost their left tackle for the season. Dallas Cowboys lost their middle linebacker for a couple games. The team you can't win without Sean Lee. There's nothing to do. The team falls apart. The Eagles lost their middle linebacker. It's not as good as Sean Lee, but a good player for the entire season. They then lose their quarterback. And the fact that the team didn't privately say, okay, well, you know what I mean? It's been a good year, but we're sunk. That is a testament to the head coach. I still don't know if Doug Peterson is a great head coach. But what we have learned this year is the idea that the Eagles whiffed because Ben McAdoo didn't come down for the second interview, if you remember. They settled on Doug Peterson. The idea that the Eagles whiffed on their head coaching position, that's gone now. We now know he's at the very least an average to above average head coach, and we'll see over the following years how great he actually is.
Yeah, I think Doug Peterson was a good hire. I think that they have the rare combination. And I don't believe this is essential that you have to play in the National Football League to be able to understand or coach in the league. I just believe you have to be a good coach. I don't care where you came from. You can coach in high school. You can coach in college. If you can communicate and teach, because you're a teacher, but you're teaching at the highest level. Everyone can't do it. Doug Peterson has proven that he was a good positional coach and he could be a coordinator. We don't know when they take that next step what they're going to do. We don't know if they become Doug Peterson or we don't know if they become Ben McAdoo. All right? Like, there is that real possibility in real time under the lights. That's what happens. But let me tell you what he's got going for him. More than being a former NFL player, more than being in a locker room, he's got a great support staff. He's got an owner. They got a great stadium situation. They're one of the most profitable teams in the National Football League. So he has the support. He has the eye, the ear, and the support and connectivity with Howie Roseman, the general manager. They went through a huge power struggle. Howie got control back of the personnel. And if you look at some of the personnel decisions that they made, drafting Carson Wentz, that was not a no-brainer, and some of the other little pieces that they've added.
Remember when they added Jay Ajayi? That Doug Peterson allegedly, or according to him, said, I didn't believe it.
Remember the conversation. Yeah. Just how nice it was, how he came to him. Hey, what about Jay Ajayi? Yeah, can we add him? Yeah, stop kidding me, though.
Right.
Oh, yeah, no, I can get him. Went out and got him. So when you have that type of support, these are the teams that win more. These are the teams that, when we start the season, the Eagles are trying to win a Super Bowl, all right? They're one of the 12 teams that I think. Doug Peterson, they got it right in the head coach because he didn't make excuses, and no team has lost more valuable players. They didn't lose a middle linebacker. They lost Jordan Hicks. Man, he is a good football player. They lost one of the best left tackles. They lost maybe the best quarterback this year who was playing at an MVP level. They lost Darren Sproles. I mean, a specialist, a return, third down. So let's give the organization.
Sure.
It starts at the top in supporting the coach through management to lead them to Super Bowl success and Super Bowl 52 in Minneapolis.
And also adding to what you just said, because all of those things are true, I think an important factor to consider here is that Doug Peterson, he has the trust of his players. I mean, as a football player, all you want is your head coach to be able to give you answers to the test. Like, we all want to know what the answers to the test are. We loved open book tests because you had the answers, you could find the answers to the test. When your head coach has answers in terms of real solutions on how you can win games, how you can consistently be successful, then I think that you trust that head coach and you're willing to go out there because you have confidence. When you're a confident player, you're a faster player, you execute better. I think that's key for this Philadelphia Eagles team, especially in the postseason. I think we see Nick Foles. We had a little skepticism after the offense struggled those last 2 regular season games, but then seeing what they did against the Atlanta Falcons, how he picked it up in the second half, seeing what he did against the Minnesota Vikings, I think this team is growing more and more confident in their head coach's ability to put them in situations where they can be successful, and you can't understate that enough. You know, I mean, that's huge for a player.
Is it more than just X's and O's and trust when it comes to the players, you know, taking in a head coach and following his leadership? Is there something else? Is there an intangible? I mean, you talk about Denny Green all the time and, like, his wisdom.
Right.
And what is it in a head coach that moves you and makes you do things that you couldn't do without his guidance?
Yeah, Jenna, you are hitting it right. It's not X's and O's because you spend so much time together. It's also leadership. It's also, does he care about us as men? And you've seen that. The culture in Philadelphia. Man, Chip Kelly was monitoring the guys around the clock.
Right.
I mean, they were not happy with Chip Kelly. So the overall culture, and now, you know, not having a college coach who's trying to be a ruler and dictator over and have a grown man I've been in this NFL locker room. I've been through NFL seasons, and understanding it helps bring the roster back together. And that's probably the biggest change. Not only from I'm going to be a big, powerful football team compared to Chip Kelly, I want to be undersized and small and agile. Those things have also changed.
Hey guys, it's Nick Wright. Thank you so much for listening to the First Things First podcast. But before the show moves along, I want to tell you about another great podcast available from Fox Sports. It's the Maybe I'm Crazy podcast with Joy Taylor. You know my friend Joy from Undisputed, but on Maybe I'm Crazy, she's breaking down the biggest stories in the world of sports in only a way Joy Taylor can. Does any other podcast beside Maybe I'm Crazy have loser power rankings? I don't think so. So check out the Maybe I'm Crazy podcast with my pal JT every week from Fox Sports.
So after the Eagles win over the Falcons, offensive lineman Lane Johnson donned an underdog mask. Nick, it was really just a dog mask with an Eagles taking the under on that one.
I get it. Thanks. I never
that?
understood.
Okay.
They were big fans of German Shepherds.
The mask became a viral sensation, and how lucky are we? Joining us now without the mask is Lane Johnson. Lane, thank you so much for hanging out with us this morning.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me.
Lane, you guys have been underdogs in the eyes of Las Vegas each week so far in the playoffs. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that so far it's actually been working for you. How much motivation has that given you guys? How much of an injection of confidence and motivation does that give you?
I think it gives us a lot. I think the main thing that I wanted to do with it is create energy. I think when you create energy amongst your football team, then it makes them play better. And, that's been my whole goal from the start.
In creating energy, rumor has it that yourself and Chris Long potentially came up with the concept of the underdog mask. And also, is that true? And there's been some good things as far as the proceeds that you have made sure happen that have been able to help out a lot of young people in Philadelphia. Can you explain that to the fans?
Yeah, so basically, I think it was before practice, we were having lunch, and Chris came up to me. You know, he's a pretty colorful character, and he said, since we're underdogs all the time, why don't we just go buy some underdog mask? And, I'm not sure what that looks like, so I went to Amazon and saw a German Shepherd mask and thought, hey, that looks pretty good, so I bought it. And right before the game, I gave it to Jason Peters before the Falcons game, and if we'd lost, that mask would have been in the trash somewhere, but fortunately we won and we broke it out, and it's been here ever since. And as far as funding the schools, I've been here for 5 years, and just going around the schools that we have in Philly, a lot of those schools are underfunded, and it's really a shame.
And it's really cool. I saw after a tweet Chris Long sent that the NFL, which is selling similar apparel now, they're going to donate the proceeds as well. It's a really cool thing you guys have done. Before we went on the air, Chris and I were talking to you about the atmosphere at the link for the NFC Championship game. We were at that game. We were not at the round before, but I imagine the atmosphere was amazing in that round as well. I know you've been playing in Philly for a while. However, you hadn't played in a game anything like the game Sunday until Sunday. Can you tell us on the field what it was like? Because it was the loudest outdoor stadium I've ever been a part of as a fan. What was it like playing in it?
It was crazy. And I think, whenever they went and scored, it kind of, things got a little bit iffy. But once Pete Robb got the interception, that's when the whole building just clicked. And it was pretty much gone since then. And, the battle's one of the trenches. They can talk about quarterbacks all day, but it's really about, I think, stopping the run and running the football. That's what wins games.
Lane, it's not only the last couple weeks, but earlier in the season, you guys sustained some injuries. Your boy, Jason Peters, he was out for the season. You've taken a leadership role with this team. You made comments about dethroning the pretty boy, Tom Brady. And did you expect these comments to get as much of attention that they've gotten?
I think it needs to. I mean, obviously he's the greatest quarterback of all time. I don't want to go to the Super Bowl and be, hey, thanks, Tom. Thanks for having us. We wish you the best. Let's be in your good graces. And obviously they're going to talk about him the whole week until they somehow get arthritis in their tongue. I don't know how that's going to be possible, but it'll happen. So from that standpoint, I'm going in confident. I want our team to be confident, and we're not just going there to celebrate. We're going there to win.
Very nice. And the pretty boy comments obviously stuck with me as well. I mean, you're both equally good looking, so I just wanted to make sure, Lane, that we got that.
I got this on. I don't have hair like him.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I'm sure you had kale for breakfast, though, and you slept in interesting pajamas, so you guys are basically identical twins.
That's awesome.
Hey, let's talk about your quarterback, Nick Foles. Let's talk about your quarterback, Nick Foles, for a second. It's been an interesting couple of weeks for him. He obviously struggled a little bit getting his footing in the end of the regular season in the first couple games of the playoffs. He looked lights out last week. The question now is which Nick Foles is going to show up. But forget about that. Tell us what's going through his head right now, coming off that win, and where he is emotionally preparing for this game.
I think he's excited. I think it's, around 7:30. He should be getting breakfast like a lot of the normal players here. But, he's excited. He's very grounded. I think he used a lot of the doubt as motivation in the game. He was confident. He was poised. And I'm just happy for Nick. As a quarterback, I think it takes time for those guys to get in a rhythm, and especially late in the year. You have the first-string quarterback taking all the reps. He comes in and is doing the best he can. And here we are, Super Bowl 52.
All right, Lane, you joined us earlier in the year, and I admitted to you I was skeptical of the Eagles as a Super Bowl contender, and you said you were going to prove us wrong.
That's an understatement, Lane.
I was fair then. I want to be fair now. Give him a chance here. You didn't join us. You hadn't joined us since Carson got hurt. When Carson got hurt, whatever hope I harbored for the Eagles, I threw out. I said you can't lose the MVP of the league and still be okay. How in the locker room did you guys not lose the confidence? You guys seem to carry the same swagger pre and post. I know you mentioned it's about the trenches game, running and stopping the run, but this is the most important position on the field, the guy who's playing at the highest level of anyone in the league. You lose him for the year. How were you guys able to maintain confidence? What part did Doug Peterson play into that? Just walk me through that.
I think you just say, everybody calm down, let's don't panic. We have a lot of veteran guys that have been in the playoffs, that have played in Super Bowls, so we have those guys come and speak to us. And it's just really about being confident. Obviously one of the best quarterbacks in the league goes down, but there's also 21 other guys that are playing this game as well. So from that standpoint, it was unfortunate, losing him, losing Jason Peters, losing a lot of guys that we would love to have right now, but the season wasn't over. I think the front office did a very good job of establishing depth, which a lot of teams don't have, and really just got the ball rolling. But I think it's really about just creating energy, staying positive, and staying on track.
Hey, Lane, I spent a couple years working as a sportscaster in Philadelphia. I got to know the fans there, and sometimes they adopt this us against the world mentality, and it's impressive. They really, truly believe that there's no one out there that they can't beat, and there's no game they can go into where they can't win. But now you guys are going against a team that has been there many times and has done that many times in the New England Patriots. And I'm wondering if there is anything daunting about that. Just maybe even if you compare the experience they have with the experience your team has, or any number of those things you can go down the line. Is there anything daunting about that team?
Yeah, I mean, got the greatest quarterback of all time. What does he have? 5 rings. He's working towards 6. Yeah, that's a daunting task to go in against. I don't want to go into the game, hey, let's hope we win. I want to go in there being confident, throw all the haymakers we can. Hey, if we come up short, then, hey, we have no excuses. I think going into a game scared and hoping to win, that's not the way to go. If you're a competitor in this league, you know, getting your team to have the same mindset is what we need to win. So obviously I have a lot of respect for the Patriots, for Tom Brady, what they've done. You know, there's not another team like them. So. But, you know, I'm glad we're in this spot. I'm glad the team's in the position. We worked hard to be where we're at, despite all the injuries and all the, you know, stuff that's happened to us, you know, along the year. But, you know, I think we're in a good spot.
Lane, a lot of people have not talked about your head coach, Doug Peterson. He does have experience in the Super Bowl as a player. You do have 6 other teammates, including Chris Long and LeGarrette Blount, who also were on New England last year. What type of, in the 48 hours after winning, what type of input have they given to the rest of the team to give you guys comfort as you head to Minneapolis for Super Bowl 52?
Just stay the course. You know, the circumstances are going to change. Obviously, it's, you know, you're going to have different obligations that week. It's going to be a lot of media. It's the Super Bowl. It's the pinnacle of what this sport's about. But it's really just about being us. Don't try to be nothing that you're not. This is what got us here. Stay the course, and everything else will take care of itself.
Lane, I want to just go back to the NFC Championship game for a moment, a drive that might be forgotten, because you mentioned playing with confidence, that you're not going to be intimidated or play scared. You guys were up 21-7 with less than a minute left in the first half on the road. Everything had gone after that opening drive about as well as you possibly could have hoped. And then your head coach and offensive coordinator decided, we're going to keep going. We're not going to slow down. We're going to try to get points before the half. It ended up working out great. You guys got a field goal. But what's the feeling like in the huddle when it's like, okay, we're not even taking a knee. 30 seconds left, forget it. We're going to go try to get more points. And that mentality, is that one you hope to replicate in 11 days in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I think Doug has an aggressive mindset. I think you saw what we did against the Falcons, getting in field goal range right before the half with Alshon. So it's really just having an aggressive approach, you know, not being too cute with things, but stay within our limits. We know what we can do. And I think anytime you can do that, that's just demoralizing to a defense. And why not?
Lane, I know you got to rock, but you did say that if you guys won the Super Bowl, you promised a beer to every single person in Philadelphia. A, you going to make good on that? And B, can I put in a request, albeit a lame beer suggestion? It is still my favorite. Please answer the question.
Yeah, there's going to be beer everywhere. Bud Light obviously said they would come to my hand, but hey, I'm not scared to put in my own money. I mean, I stand by my statement. Nobody expected us to be here. It's all a joke, ha-ha, but hey, here we are.
Yeah. You got a few stacks of money, too, so I'm sure you're going to be all right.
All right, Bud Light Lime. I'm just going to throw it out there. Bud Light, that is my beer.
Good luck, man.
Hey, Lane, come on. There's much respect for my beer. Thank you.
Appreciate you, man.
Wish you all the best of luck. Thanks for hanging out with us. I'm Jenna Wolfe, and thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Make sure to subscribe and tell your friends, family, and coworkers about the podcast, which, by the way, is available on iTunes and all your favorite podcast apps. You can catch a fresh new episode every Monday through Friday on FS1, starting at 6:30 a.m. Eastern, 3:30 a.m. Pacific. So long, everyone.